Hi, welcome back to I'd Rather Be a Buffalo. My name is Kevin Gregg. That is Doug Riggle. Glad to have you here with us today. Hey, if you're brand new to the channel, please and you check out the other videos or listen to the other shows that we've done, please like, subscribe, share. Wanted to tell you that up top. Um, Doug, let's just share this because we were just sharing it just as we were talking. You've been on a 4-day fast. You're
4 day fast.
just
Haven't
about
had
to
food since Monday night,
I love it. When was the
and it's
last time
Friday.
when was the last time that you did a 4-day fast?
It was last year. I
Yeah.
realized that. I'm like, I haven't done it for a while. I've done some intermittent fasting, which I do typically each week, but I haven't done like even a day long fast since last year. I'm like, I need to get back in this routine.
Yeah. And was part of it also as you're going through, your chemotherapy procedures and getting tests and all that stuff, and you're kind of going, I need to do stuff to keep rebooting the system and keep doing what I
Exactly.
can on my part, right?
Exactly.
How'd it go for you this week?
Pretty well. Monday I was hungry, and every time I talked to, or Tuesday I was hungry, and every time I was on the uh, call at work, I'm like, I could just tell everyone was hearing my stomach gurgling and growling. But fortunately, that they weren't able to hear it, so that's good.
I will
But by
say,
the first day, I forget to eat.
yeah.
The
I,
first day is the hardest.
I don't know how like you put out a post today or yesterday, whatever it was, and you had like French fries. I'm like going, how do you do that? Like it's absolutely self-imposed torture that you put on yourself, right?
This is the first time I dreamt about eating French fries, and I woke up from the dream. I'm like, oh, that tasted so good. Oh man, it's not Friday yet.
Yeah, this is the part where you say I dreamt about eating French fries, so I woke up, my pillow was gone. You know what
It's gone exactly.
I mean? Well, you're gonna either break it tonight or tomorrow morning, so good on you, buddy.
Yeah.
Hang in there. Hang in there.
Thank you.
Um, Something that I wanted to talk about with our listeners, particularly over the next couple episodes. So, number one, I've been on X recently, or Twitter or X.com, and I've been trying to get out there and to get used to what that social media game is, especially with like the writing and all that stuff. But one of the things that popped up underneath my social media, which ties in with us, somebody the other day, and I can't remember what this user's name is off the top of my head. He's getting ready to like launch sort of a daily journal thing, but he launched this thing talking about the benefits that he had discovered with writing a daily journal and how he
Hmm.
had been like, I didn't know what the benefits were. And as he was describing it, he was talking about how he kept this daily journal for months and months and months. And I think it was like probably about 4 months into the process that all of a sudden he had kind of like this epiphany and this wake up. So one of the things that he had asked was, he'd asked me personally, what are the things that you do for journaling? Because I've been doing journaling for quite a while now, probably about 15 years, right? Or more. Uh, and uh, at one point he said, well, what are the questions that you ask yourself? Now, it made me kind of do a couple of things where number one, I went, well, for the most part, recently I've just been free form writing. Or we'll have certain things like some of the journals and stuff that we've been developing have sort of a guided theme that you go through. But for the most part, when it comes to a lot of my own personal stuff, I realized like, I've been kind of free forming it. And it made me think, hey, wait a minute. There used to be a format that I used to do for myself just as recently as within the last year. So I started going back through some documents I have. Now, I keep journals in different versions of stuff, right? I have it in handwritten form, writing on the computer stuff. What's usually your best form of doing it, Doug?
These days now, because especially right now, because my neuropathy in my fingers through chemotherapy, my handwriting has gotten worse and worse. And I need to be able to get my thoughts down as fast as I think them. So I still type. And that's probably the best way for me on the computer. Just open up a blank Word document and just start going from there. And it's nice because my brain and fingers can still keep up with each other for the most part. Writing longhand gets any more exhausting for me.
I understand that. I do. I do think that there's something like for me, there's something that would happen. I'm sure that you've discovered in the past. There is something about the tactile version of it when you're obviously not dealing with challenges like you're dealing with pen to paper. There's something of the action of doing that. How would you be? You don't do any sort of digital pens or anything like that? Have you ever experimented with that in the past? Not yet.
No, there's a lot of Apple products that do that well. I don't own any Apple products,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I started doing it. I haven't done it recently, but my son has an iPad and I ended up getting an Apple Pen, which is kind of helpful. Like there is stuff that you can like literally write on and go, "Oh, wow, this is, it's not the same feeling as paper, but it is kind of cool to be able to quickly jot stuff down and it does do a very good job of capturing it." Um, it's something that I've started to do too. And again, I'm just going to share my experience here. Nobody has to follow exactly what I do, but um, oddly enough, I've been using some of social media as part of a journal. I'm not saying to be totally transparent with stuff, right?
yes.
But especially as it's been very interesting for me going back and revisiting X, Twitter, because realizing like, oh yeah, this is a place where you can just capture brief thoughts and it sort of challenges you to go, hey, you need to do it in a truncated
Mhm.
space, right? So it's a good way to sort of practice some stuff. But part of the thing I've been doing as I've been practicing some of those things is I love using, first of all, voice to text stuff has just been so amazing lately. And there is an app that I use which is called Notion, which is sort of a version of it's kind of like a shared database thing that you can use. There's different versions of this, whether it's Notion or whether it's Evernote, or it could even be notes that are on your phone, Android or iPhone device. But I will tell you, I do find myself when something quick comes to me, I sure do love hitting that voice to text option and hitting that thing to just kind of quickly gather a couple things. I'll tell you when that helps me is when I'm on a walk. If
Mhm.
I'm on a walk somewhere and I want to kind of keep walking to be able to hit a few things, and once in a while I might even hit the audio record so I can grab some of those thoughts and then maybe transcribe it later. But boy, I sure do love voice to text stuff that happens. Um, anyway, I'm going off on a whole tangent here on this. These are some of the techniques I like to use. So it so this question that this person put up on X caused me to go, huh, I used to have this regular format that I used to use throughout the day. So I went back and I was investigating some of that. In the process of doing that, there's something really cool that I discovered because I also have not only do I keep handwritten journals, but I also keep like digital documents and personal writing that I do for myself. I'm one of those guys that I really love to like just do a brain dump where I just kind of go, blah, blah, blah. This may not make a lot of sense, but at least I'm getting the rust off the bicycle and let this go. Doug, I discovered that in one of my personal documents, and I've had this for a while, but there's a whole top section of one of these personal documents I have that inside of it, it has different things that I have set as sort of like, hey, here's some foundational things that you need to refer to for yourself. And it's like literally captured in like one place in this document to go. And these include things like life verses, life scripture verses, life
Mhm.
maxims. Remember what my why is, what some of the long term vision things are that I'm working for. And these are things that have come, through my writing over the years. Because I'm going to tell you, I looked at one of the physical document, or excuse me, one of the digital documents I have, and this is a version of it, has over a half a million words in it, at least half a million words. And that's one of several documents. I'm going to tell you, I've easily probably I'm pretty good guess here. I'm going to say probably between digital stuff, handwritten journals, all that stuff. I've probably logged somewhere close to about 2.5 million words. Like, no doubt. Like, no doubt. there's been that, people just kind of go, huh, what? It's like, yeah, I just kind of use it as sort of a brain dump that I've done. And anyway, I wanted to share part of this with you and also with our listeners because, man, it was like for me, and it's not like I hadn't revisited this stuff recently. I'd probably say, I probably popped open that document maybe several months ago, or whatever. But for some reason, like the last couple of days, when I popped that open, I went, holy crap, this is like a really important part of my writing, right? Which is I'm just sort of scrolling through it as I have it here, right? Which is like at the top of it, I have these sections which are remember this. I have like a big broad section which is like I think I can share this. I might as well. It's a little bit this is some of my own personal stuff. And I feel like this stuff is safe enough. Yeah, I feel like this stuff is safe enough to share, right? Which people are gonna go, hmm. Uh yeah, I'm gonna share this. I have this one section of it which literally has things. Now, a lot of this is highlighted because I have like a table of contents that I use for myself. So, it all went away. That's good. I hope I didn't change anything. I hope I didn't. I'll have to look at that later. Uh, yeah, I have something like this, which is like, remember this. You don't have to please anyone. You don't have to prove anything to people. God is who you're responsible to. When you're in that mindset, you don't have to scramble, trip, and bumble over your words to tell people what you do for a living or what you've done with your day or justify your work. You don't have to make excuses. Your heart is in the right place. You can stand and speak confidently with authority. You are priest, prophet, and king. You have a place in God's royal order. Claim it, right? So these are sort of some things that had come up for me over time where it was like, and I'll tell you, I was probably at a point where I was um having a lot of doubt or having a lot of like, second guessing of stuff. And yeah, I just felt like I got to write this stuff down, you know, in a place where I'm going to remember it. And I put it in purple in there because I needed it sort of like a royal purple, right? To kind
Hmm.
of go, hey, you're part of this. Do you have anything that's like this for yourself in your own writing or work or
I go through stages where, especially when I'm traveling, and I'll stop somewhere and grab a blank notebook and write down stuff. When I did a lot of missions work overseas, I always had a journal with me. In fact, I encouraged everyone on the team. One of the things I would do is I would give them each a journal to document their experiences.
Mhm.
And in the front of it, I would write a verse that reminded me of them and give it to them once we got to our destination. Um, and it was amazing how many of them actually used that to record their experiences with people and with God and with just the new experiences they were going through. Uh, and I do that and I start it and then I put the book away. And I may only get like a page or two these days. And so I'm like, then I come back and I put it, if it's thoughts I want to remember, then I digitize it. And I've got a 1 terabyte drive under my desk here that gets backed up every day. Um, but I, I keep my writing more free form from that respect, where I don't focus on the longer term writing the way I used to do. I focus on the shorter term. And if you can see my desk here, it's like sticky notes everywhere of things to remind me. And then above my desk here is this massive, I paid a fortune for it. This whiteboard that's glass with it's also magnetic. I don't know how they did that. And I've got verses up here, and I've got notes for I'd rather be a buffalo, notes for work, a couple of pictures up here. I've got some other stuff around the room with pictures and just remembrances. And it's just I'm to the point in my life where I'm to feel accomplished. I write something and then I either move it to a place where it needs to be, or I throw it away and move on.
Mhm.
And I think it's helped me to keep my focus and not suddenly be overwhelmed with the amount of documents I've got.
Yeah.
because I'm not looking at it every day. But then I'll go back through it and look at it a couple times a year. I'm like, was this any good? And I'm like, this was trash. Throw it out.
Yes, right.
And then what's good though that I need to keep or expand on at some point in time? And I've got the starts of probably three or four other books
Good.
there. In fact, I've got a new set of thoughts on a book up on my whiteboard in front of me,
Good.
but that'll get digitized. I've just because I needed to document things faster than I could write. I think writing at some point went by the wayside. My writing used to be okay, then it got bad till I didn't write that much. Now it's horrible. I actually, I just today sent off my nephew, great nephew, a graduation gift. He's graduating from high school and a little gift. And I started to write his card, and I'm like, he can't even read cursive. And I could actually write better in cursive than I can print. I'm like, I got a lot to say. So I just typed it up.
Right.
And but then I saved it. I'm like, you know, never know. I'm like, there's some good wisdom here. Digitize it, have it for something else later on.
Yeah, totally. I think that's I think it's important with your that there are things that you can do, and I think that this is one of the things that's popped up for me from this document, right? That there are ways to sort of order it in a way where there's going
Yeah.
to be stuff that's just going to be just kind of like dump stuff that you can go back and revisit and go, oh yeah, I can just toss this. It's fine. Like I've done that too. Like I've tossed tons of journals where I've just kind of gone, I'm good. I'm good. I don't think that there's nothing in here. I've moved on from this stuff, or like this isn't helping me to anymore to do this. It's okay. And believe me, I know that there's a lot of people that just kind of go, how can you get rid of anything? Like
Yeah.
everything's so precious, but you know, we also, believe in a greater God than that, right? It's like so much bigger than any of the stuff that you do, or that idea that something, well, I got to hold on to this one thing because just in case. I'll tell you where I have this problem with. I've got this problem with old computers and laptops and stuff like that I have around here, which I've got to learn to like, because I'm still very, maybe you can give me a tip right here on the thing if you happen to know it. I still hold on to laptops and old hard drives I have from things because I am terrified of like letting it go in case there, you know what I mean? Because I want to be able to like make sure that when that stuff is gone, like it is completely destroyed, that no
Hmm.
one could figure out how to hack it. So I don't know. Have you ever had that experience with like getting rid of old computers successfully to go, it's safe, it's destroyed, there's no way anyone's going to be able to hack that or
The computers over the years that I've owned personally, the nice thing is most of my companies have provided me with laptops.
sure.
And I have a separate terabyte drive for all my stuff,
Hmm.
whether it's old work stuff, current writings, past writings, all that. Um, but when you run a nonprofit and you've got documentation that's digitized, so I've got a whole box full of old computer drives just in case. Now, after a 7 year period,
Right.
I go find a place that has the big magnet degauss, wipe it clean, and destroy it.
Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's immediately what's going through my mind is like I need to bring it to a huge magnet thing, and then I need to watch it go through like an aluminum shredder, right?
There you go.
like
Yeah.
like I need to see it go brrrr, and see it literally, dissipate into little things. That's what I need to see, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I've got books like that. I've got books that I had during my days in counseling where I've
Yeah.
got things written in them and I haven't gotten rid of them yet. But there's a point in time, and probably soon, because I'm in a purge mode right now
Right.
anyway. I'm actually working on Christmas gifts for family for this year. And it's stuff that I've just held on to, things
Yes.
I've had all my life that I want to pass on to individuals. And I don't wait till I'm gone. I'm going to do it
Yes.
now. And
No,
I'm trying to de-size,
declutter.
declutter and reduce my
Yeah.
life footprint. I'll
No,
say it
there's
that way.
there's something like that, like decluttering and purging all that stuff. I think it's super helpful because it's a love letter to your friends and your family, right?
Yeah.
Because again, I had my friend, I was just talking about this the other day, but my friend Don Eitner, who had passed away years ago, but I remember he was in his 80s. And he had just gotten, like, he had an aunt or someone that had stuck around till she was like in her 90s, maybe even late 90s. And then she had finally passed away. And then, you know, the stuff that she had ended up passing on to him. I think Don was like he was probably in his late 70s at the time, almost early
Hmm.
80s at the time. And, he basically went over and it was this garden shed that was just filled with all of this books and things like this and knickknacks and bric-a-brac and all this stuff that was from his aunt, his uncle, some other family members. And he just kind of looked at it all and he just went, I have no, like, there's no personal connection I have with any of
Right.
this stuff that's here, right? And so he ended up just having to, like, just give it away or to do all that stuff. But I think that there's something so important about, like, not leaving all of that important stuff for your friends and family to have to take care of and sort. It's like try to take care of your own stuff if you can, right?
Yeah. Like
Because
when my mom passed, she had so many antiques, and there were a few things that were important to my sister and I, but most of it was like, I don't want it. I don't have room for it. My sister doesn't want it. She doesn't have room for it. And I try to encourage my mom to sell everything and go have fun with it
yeah,
because it didn't mean anything to my sister and I.
yeah,
And it's like, so we found called an auction house. They came out, they wrapped it all up, they took it out, they auctioned it over a period of like 3 months, and sent us checks. Like, all right,
how'd you, I mean, you can sure if you want to or not on this, how'd you guys do? Did you do okay?
we did pretty well. Yeah,
Good. Hey man, but it is one of those things, like exactly what you talked about, which is like, Mom, I wish you'd sold that so you could have had like a nice trip or something
right.
like that, or to do
Yeah,
some cool stuff. But those things also have meaning for them. But boy, I mean, boy, talk about a great idea, right? Is to go, what stuff that I could do so an automatic trigger would happen where it's like an auction house is going to come get all, because I can understand people having, like, the emotional ties to stuff while they're still
right.
alive. Totally get that. Totally get that. But then having something that triggers, unless that your kids or nieces or nephews want something specifically, but then to go, hey man, figure out the stuff that you want right now, and whatever else you don't want, don't worry. I've got an automatic trigger that starts in my will that has this, and then the money will get split up that way, right?
Exactly.
It'd be pretty cool. Uh, it's a good thing. But I mean, I think that that's so important, especially when we talk about, the personal writing and the ideas and the things that you have, because, and you and I are going to get into this over the next couple of weeks, especially because we got something very, very cool that we want to share with you guys that we've been working on over the last year that we're ready to finally push out so that you guys can get a hold of it, and to help you with your journey as well. But you know part of the thing with part of this thing with, especially with personal writing, is you want to be able to get to a point where you feel that you have a safe place where you can just, like, I just got to get all this stuff down, right? Like, I've got to get all this stuff down. I've got to get it out. I've got to get it out one way or the other. Um, but you also want to ensure that there's safety with that for yourself, and making sure that it's not something that could you potentially damage you as you're having thoughts, or hurt or harm other people as you're doing that as well. But you want to get to a place, especially with your writing, where you feel free that you can, I need to be able to get this out some way or another, you know so super important. So for me, the big thing too, also, that I just want to express again in this episode was, I'm so grateful that, and this is the thing that I wanted to share, which is so important about the writing. It's through this writing and the free form dump and all this other stuff that over months and years, that all of a sudden I started seeing patterns of things that were coming up, or ideas that came up for me that went, that's something important that I need to bookmark, or that's something that needs to be like in a top section. And I've literally went back and I took all that stuff and I've literally now created another document, which is like Kevin's guidebook, Kevin's guidebook for himself, which that in itself is that's a 5,000 word document just from that, just from these little things that I've captured, which include things like here's guidelines that you have for work that you're doing. Here's long-term goals and certain things that you're trying to accomplish or get done in your life, right? Like there was parts of this that were just like, oh, it was awesome, you know? Um, one of the things that came up, and I think we could talk briefly about this while we're on here. Um, one of the things that really popped for me too was this idea of dreaming and scheming, right? Which was this idea of like as I was going through it, which was super helpful for me over this last week, to where I went, oh, that's right. I've literally had ideas or plans or hopes for doing something like this. And a lot of these things came from a process that I call dreaming and scheming, which I borrowed from my friend Bonnie Utley, who passed that phrase on to me as well. But the idea of dreaming and scheming with God, which is like these ideas of, huh, what would I do or could I do if I had the opportunity? And sort of setting, I don't want to call it like goal setting or whatever it is, but it is a version of going, you know, I think that this is something that I'm being prompted to work towards. And I think that I want to write these things out. I guess the big question for you, especially with the challenges that you've had over the last year and a half, have you been doing that again or revisiting stuff that you've thought of?
Those things tend to be conversations with God for me and not written down. So I'm like, God, what if this happened? Or God, if this future were possible, how would that play out? Or, hey, I've been thinking about this, God. If this is a bad idea, put something in my life to let me know. Um, I'm always envious of people like you, and you remind me of my friend Rick. You both have this way of orchestrating your future. And I've lived my life a little bit more loosely, but things have just always aligned up.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's because I'm an optimist or just there's a connectedness in my strength finders that just everything's going to work out.
Sure.
I don't spend as much time as I probably could have because I was actually thinking about that today. I was on LinkedIn looking at different jobs. I've got a couple of different people who are looking for work right now and looking at jobs that are out there. And I always like to see what's in my field as well. So I keep abreast of possibilities. Um, but I'm looking through these jobs and I'm mulling over in my brain this idea of, you know what? I just lost my train of thought. It just got
That's
I
okay.
could
So it was let me help you get back on track with it.
thank you.
The idea with it was the idea that you look at people like me and Rick that are able to sort of write down a sort of plot what stuff out, to sort of kind of go, hey, we think we want what this is. You have sort of a strengths finder part of your personality, which goes, you know what, I'm just gonna play this as it goes and see what happens. And as a result of that, things seem to work out. So hopefully that
Yeah.
makes
So I'm looking through LinkedIn and I'm watching these people who are orchestrating their life and orchestrating their career path to get here. And there are places I'm like, oh, I could do that job. I don't want the pressure.
yeah,
There's
right.
a VP job over here. There's a director's job over here. There's a president's job over here. I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. I don't want the pressure.
Yeah, right.
And it's worked out, praise God, well for me. I've never been one. Again, praise all goes to God. Never been let go in a company. I've worked for major companies that have had major layoffs. Never been fired from a position. Um, Whenever I've had a position that I knew I promised to work for the church 2 years, 2 years were up. The next job was waiting right there for me,
Awesome.
and it was the perfect job for me in that moment in time. And then when I decided to go into consulting, got hired into consulting right away.
Yeah.
And then when I wanted to leave one consulting firm to go to the one I'm at now, I just I was actually in a room sharing an office space at a client with two people from the company that I was going to. And they helped me get my foot in the door. And I've been, here for 4 years now. And I've never just had that. And I've never had horrible, horrible bosses where I'm like, I've got to get out of here. And my poor friend Rick has had some horrible narcissistic bosses. So I've lived vicariously through his trials, praising God the entire time that I didn't have to go through any of that. Um, but it's just been I, I don't know if I'm envious of people like the two of you because it's been a good life.
Hey man, there's right. I don't want to tell you not to be envious or that you don't have those feelings, right? But being on the other side of it, I've had some bad leadership in my life, right? I've had some stuff where I'm just crawling out of my skin. So, you know, maybe maybe there are things to be incredibly thankful of. And believe me, your friend Rick and I probably share a lot of those qualities of like for me, several of the things that lead and guide me, especially when I'm trying to lead others or teaching students or whatever. I'm actually trying to pass on the things that I wasn't given, right?
Hmm.
That there were certain things where I just thought, either bad treatment that had happened with teachers or leaders or other things like that, where I just went, yeah, I'm definitely, when I'm in an opportunity that I'm leading other people, I am not going to do that. I'm going to do the opposite. And that's sort of led a lot of the stuff that I've done too. And believe me, there might be a part of it too that's about, I think a lot of it's about control. Believe me, a lot of it's about control because
Yes.
you just kind of go, you get into some scenarios and you just go, I never want to be in another circumstance like that.
Hmm.
What can I do to do whatever I can within my control and power to set myself up, not to get, taken advantage of again or mistreated again. Uh, I think that that's sort of the driving thing for me. So I would say count yourself fortunate. That's not to delegitimize those feelings that you have to kind of go, gosh, I wish I had that. But those for me, I think that some of those things they've definitely come at a price. You know, they've come at a price to where I go, yeah, I think I want to do some dreaming and scheming about what's possible, Lord, about how I can change stuff for the better, for my career, for my life. You know, so there you go. Well, that's some of the stuff that I think that we have talked about here today about at least exploring in your writing. You know, these are just a few of the avenues that you can explore with your writing. So, uh, we got some more exciting stuff to share with you coming up in the next few weeks. Um, but yeah, I think we're going to keep on this. We're going to keep on this train of thought in terms of writing and using it as a healing vehicle for yourself, a way to get your thoughts to paper, and a way to see them. We'll go a little bit more in depth with all this leading up to what we're getting ready to launch. So, tell you what, to keep best up to date with it, biggest thing I'm going to tell you is please follow us on Instagram at I'd Rather Be a Buffalo. That's the place to see the most recent stuff that we're doing. And of course, go to our website, I'd rather be a buffalo.com, because that's where our bigger launch is going to be coming with all the information that we have. And we got some exciting new features and stuff that we're rolling out there on the website as well. So you don't want to miss it. Closing thoughts, Doug.
Everyone is wired different. And it's one of the beautiful things about this world that we don't all tackle problems the same way. But there are ways that consistent ways that can help everyone work through their issues. So writing is a big one. And I've got, like I said, journals from counseling from way back and counseling books with writing in it. And um, writing is very cathartic. And it's a way to kind of safely express whatever's going on. And so no matter how you're wired, it's a good resource, not just for English majors or for people in any specific sort of industry. It's for everyone. And there's nothing, uh, just a side tangent real quick. I used to buy a lot of antique books. My uncle was an auctioneer and I loved books. And I just buy a whole box of books. He sold it to me for $1 at an auction. The cool thing was not just the books themselves, but the handwritten notes inside of them about the people who had the books before me and what they were living through at that time. I even got a scrapbook one time from the 1920s from Columbus. And I would just pick that up and just go through it and just imagine the people, and like I could tell who what their life was like by the comments on the side and the type of articles that they clipped and the things that they found that were funny. And it was one of my prized possessions for years until the paper got so old I'd open it up and it would just crumple away. It didn't last long in my possession. It lasted probably about 10 years in my possession, but yeah, I just love that mode of conveyance of thought in someone's personal writing.
Super important. Super important. We hope that you get the chance to do that as well. Our friends are listening here. So thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us this time on this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Bye bye.